Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Mrs. Cford Vlogs. I'm Stephanie Crawford, and it's great to have you here with me today. I want to talk a little bit about video feedback. If you have projects that are turned in online or papers through Google Docs, things that aren't really turned in via paper anymore, you can find it daunting to have to give the feedback to it. If you're like a lot of teachers that I work with, and myself, it can seem really time consuming to go through and leave those digital comments. So even though Google Docs has a great system for leaving digital comments, it's still time consuming. And I always felt like, it would just be faster if I could just handwrite it. But then if I handwrite it, I have to have all the papers printed. I have to carry those papers everywhere. Are they going to actually write on my handwriting? And I write in cursive because it's easier for me. It's the way that I feel best about writing my thoughts down. But not all kids can read cursive anymore. So those are all things that you have to think of when we're talking about giving feedback. So when I was considering, what do I want to do? I know that I need to give feedback. I know it needs to be timely, which is hard to do when you have projects that you're looking at, that you're trying to give constructive feedback on, papers, research, all of that. No matter what content it is, if you have students turning those things in, that feedback is required. So I thought one of the best things I could do was find a way to give feedback in a new way, a different way. Now, apps like Kaizana exist and work great with Google Classroom and allow you to integrate something that's been turned in through Google Classroom and have it open in front of you and give audio feedback to it. It's a fabulous tool. There's nothing wrong with it. So with video feedback, one of the things that I like over just having that audio feedback is that they can have their paper or their project up on the screen, and you're using your screen recording device to capture it. You can highlight things as you're talking about them. So it does provide that visual at the same time as the audio. And if you're someone like me, that visual is important. I like being able to put the two together. So there's a couple tools that you can use easily. Screencastify will allow you to make some of those videos, although without the paid subscription, you are going to have limits on the number of videos you can make and on the type of editing you can do if you need to do that. If you're already used to using your Google products and you've never used something to do a screen recording before, that would be a great place to start. It's free to sign up. Like I said, you don't have to have the paid subscription. With your Gmail account, you already have an account for Screencastify. You just need to go there. So try there first if you haven't done it before. So if you have the ability, if your district is willing to purchase a few seats for WeVideo, I would highly recommend it. Our district went ahead, we did try the free trial, and we had enough teachers who said, this is how I would use this program with those advanced features in my classroom, that we were able to purchase some seats. And what we do is we basically loan those out. It's like a library checkout system almost. So we have a sheet, and if teachers want to use them, they're able to sign up for the number they need for their students. We bought 130 seats. So as a teacher needs them for a full class, they're able to, and then they'll sign up on that sheet for as long as they need them. And then when they're done with them, we'll take those paid seats back, and the students still have all of their videos that were created in their account. Their account doesn't disappear. It's just the paid feature. So you could do something like that if your district is willing to, or maybe they're willing to get a few teacher accounts for you to use, especially if you're going to use the video feedback feature. It's definitely worth it. So with the video feedback, there are a few things to remember. So, and this is coming from me giving some video feedback and experimenting with it, and also working with teachers as they're trying something new and some of the troubles that they've had. So one of the things that came up was that the videos, even though they had practiced and we talked about what to do, they felt like maybe they were going longer than they should. You know, you want to shoot for a sweet spot, 2 to 3 minutes. You don't want to go too long when you're giving that video feedback. You want it to really address the problem, and then they'll be able to move on. So here's a few things that you need to do. Here's 5 tips. The first tip is to make sure you actually skim through that paper first. So even having it up on your screen before you start recording is fine, but you don't want to go in blind, because if you go in blind and you're looking at it for the first time, you're going to take more time as you're making your video. And that's what we want to limit. So skim through it first. Keep some Post-its with you. And as you go through, if there's something you know you want to come back to that needs to be addressed, go ahead and make a little note on your Post-it and then set it aside. It's there for you. It's not a full sentence. You didn't spend a lot of time with that. It's just a note to remind you of what you want to talk about with that feedback. The second thing is you don't want to read the whole essay or the whole brochure or the whole project, whatever it is. You don't want to read it to the student. They already know what it says. They turned it into you. And that's just going to, again, elongate your video. So by skimming through it first, you're going to kind of resist that urge to read it. The reading can sometimes come if that's your first time through and you're processing it, so you read it aloud. Again, we want to skip that. The third thing, you want to have something to say for each of those paragraphs or for each of those skills that you're working on. So you really should have the rubric in front of you, and you should make sure that you're specifically giving feedback that addresses what you're supposed to be assessing, because a temptation your first few times especially will be to kind of, oh, this grabbed my attention, let's talk about this. Oh, you could improve on that. But if that's not really what you're assessing, and if that's not what's important for that assignment, then don't waste your time with that. You don't want to spend 2 minutes going on about something that's not even on your rubric to assess. The fourth thing is try not to be overly specific. You're going to have a tendency to want to specifically correct mistakes for them. If this is a draft of a paper, you can point out the mistake, maybe pick out one specific area if it's been a common problem, and then as it comes up again, refer them back to, this is a problem that you had with evidence collection before. You need to have more specific evidence, something like that. So don't be overly specific. You're not fixing it for them. You want them to be able to see what their mistake was and make it better. Okay, so try to avoid being overly specific. And then the fifth thing is that in order to facilitate a quicker video and actually better understanding that you have whether your students know the information or not, is have them mark on their project where they think certain things are. So for instance, if they were writing a paper and you were actually assessing their thesis statement, have them highlight their thesis statement before they share it with you so that you know that's what they think it is. Now they might be right, they might be wrong, but now you have a better understanding of where your students are at, and it cuts down your time because you're not searching for what the thesis statement is, you're looking at what they identified. And then if that's a first draft of a paper and they turn in a second draft or a final draft, you have that to compare it to again too. You know, they can mark those changes that they've made. So that's going to help cut down on your time and give you a better understanding of what's going on with your students. In a project, you can do the same thing. Let's say they had to turn in a slide deck and you wanted to make sure they had, biographical information. If this was in history and they needed to have a certain amount of biographical information, have them mark that slide or have a certain transition that comes in. Whatever you decide that you want to have them do it. And then that helps you assess them better. Okay, the only way to do it is to just jump in and try it. So if you've never used WeVideo before, make your free account. Now with the free account, you will only be able to use the webcam portion. You won't be able to do your screenshot as of now anyway. But it would give you some practice with the tools. Or go into Screencastify if you haven't used it and see what it's like to record your screen while you're talking and giving that feedback. Practice makes perfect. Keep in mind those 5 tips for getting a good video feedback, and I think you'll be amazed at how your students respond to this new type of feedback and the time it opens up for you too. Not having to type all of your comments, not having to write all of your comments, but really being able to leave that feedback in real time as you're going through the paper. As always, thank you for joining me on this edition of Mrs. Cford Vlogs, and I hope that you will come back again. Have a great day.